Hello, thank you for joining me for our fairy tale craft. Today we are learning how to make a shoe based on the fairy tale, The Elves and the Shoemaker. So we are going to make shoes just like the elves in the story. There's a list of all the supplies that you need in the description, and also the template that you'll need for the shoe. So here are all of the supplies that you will need for this craft. So first we need to print out the template and cut it out of the page. Next, you will either need a piece of cardstock or a piece of construction paper. I'm going to be using cardstock. So we take our shoe and we need to glue it to the cardstock. I'm using a glue stick, but you can use liquid glue as well. So make sure you get the glue on all the edges of the shoe before you put it onto the cardstock or construction paper. And flatten it down very carefully. So next we need to cut the shoe out. Once the shoe is cut out, we are going to need a hole punch so we can punch the holes for our laces. So we're going to punch the holes where the circles are on the template, and you might need a grown-up's help for this part. And it's a little bit tricky when the glue is still wet, so I would suggest letting it dry for a little bit before you start punching the holes, especially if you used liquid glue. Okay, so now that we've punched all the holes, we need a piece of yarn for our laces. So you need about a foot long piece of yarn. So you will cut a foot long of the yarn. And the first thing we need to do with our yarn is put it through the first hole. And we're going to tape it to the back like this. So we need our tape, and we'll put a small piece of tape onto the piece of yarn behind the shoe, like that. That will keep it secure while we lace up our shoe. So now we're going to lace through all of the holes. So we go from the back and we'll put it through the hole and pull it tight. And then we'll keep going all the way up the shoe. Now, if you feel like it's a bit tricky to get that end of the yarn through the hole, you can either cut the end off, or we can take a piece of tape and you can stick it to the end and kind of wrap it around the end. That way it will be easier to feed through the holes, kind of like a real shoelace. Great job. So now that our shoe is all laced up, we're going to trim the lace. There we go. So we have our laces. And now it's time to decorate. So I decided to use crayons, but you can use anything you want. You can use markers, you can use colored pencils, you can use paint. Whatever you have around the house is totally fine and will absolutely work to decorate this shoe. Alright, so this is what my shoe looks like after I colored it with crayons. And I have some jewels that I'm going to use to make it a little bit more fun. And again, if you have pom-poms or pipe cleaners or feathers or anything else around the house, you can absolutely use anything that you have and anything that you want. I just happen to have jewels, so those are the ones that I'm going to use to decorate. But this is the part where you guys can be creative and you can make the shoe however you want it to look. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on my jewels so that they will stick. And I'm going to add a few more jewels. So this is what my shoe looks like all done. Yay, I hope your shoes turned out great. I'm sure they did. Thank you for joining me. Tune in for another fairy tale craft.